readers, my name is Marley and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today, as you can see, I'm going to be filming my TBR for March. I'm filming this a little bit in advance, so hopefully this doesn't change too much, but these are basically all of the books that I plan to read during the month of March. So starting off, I'm going to share the 3 books that I plan on reading for a secret TBR video. So it's going to be a reading vlog where I have a certain theme to what I'm reading. So let me know if you can kind of like guess what the theme of that vlog is going to be. But one of the books that I want to read for that is this huge book. It is Eldest by Christopher Paolini. And this is the second book in the Aragon series. This is like the popular dragon series that I think a lot of people read years ago when we were younger. I read the first book in, I want to say like 8th grade, and I have the whole series, but I never returned to it because I was never really a huge fan of that first book. But I own them, so I really just want to like read all the physical books that I own. It's kind of like a goal that I have for the year. So I'm gonna dive back into the second book. This is a series that is essentially about dragons. It's like a YA fantasy, high fantasy series that has dragons, that has magic, and all those sorts of things that you would expect. And this, it looks very long, but hopefully it does look like the text or like the font is in pretty big font, so hopefully it won't take me forever and I can somewhat enjoy this one. And then I also want to read Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the 3rd book in the Brown Sisters companion romance series. It's an adult romance following Eve Brown, who I think gets cut off by her parents because they're like, you need to grow up, you need to figure out your life, your career, that kind of situation, without just relying on her parents. In other words, she needs to act her age. So I think she gets a job at this restaurant, I want to say, as like a chef, and the romance is between her and like the owner or like her boss or something like that. These books again are like not really my favorite, but I really want to like conclude the trilogy, and Talia Hibbert does have pretty good representation in her books, so that's something I definitely enjoy. Yeah, looking forward to conclude that trilogy this month. Then the last book for that vlog is, I think the first book is called The Awakening in the Zodiac Academy series by Caroline Peckham and Susanne Valenti. This is, I think, a fantasy romance book series that is about these 2 twin sisters who are both Geminis, and they end up going to this Zodiac Academy. I love astrology and like the zodiac signs, so that is why I'm interested in reading this. I think based on your sign, you get put into maybe a certain place in the school. I don't know, but I think it has a bunch of fantastical elements in it, like fairies, vampires, werewolves, all that kind of fun stuff that I enjoy, and there's also a lot of romance in it. I think more like dark romance. Next up, we have the book that I'm going to be reading for Buzzwordathon, which is like a year-long challenge thing put on by Books and Lala. And for, bless you. And for this month, the theme is to read a book with a location in the title. And for this, I'm going with The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware, Cabin 10 being the location. This is a thriller book, and my friend Elle actually read it recently and really highly recommended it, so I really wanted to prioritize reading it because I think I've had it for like a few months now. But Ruth Ware is a thriller author. I've been like making my way through her backlist, and I for the most part enjoy her books, and the plot sounds like something I will definitely enjoy. It is about this writer who is on this cruise ship working on like her next assignment. She sees that the woman in cabin 10 ends up getting murdered or something like that, and then I think it is like a closed door mystery where the murderer is someone that is on this cruise ship, and we're trying to figure out who the murderer is and like why they killed the woman in cabin 10, who was she, that kind of thing. So it sounds like a very classic whodunit sort of thing, which, as we know on this channel, I love. Then, as I mentioned, I want to keep getting through a lot of my physical TBR, so I would like to read Daughter in the Deep by Riordan. Riordan is the author of the Percy Jackson series and all of those other series that are rooted in like mythology. This is his newest release, and it is, I don't think, about mythology, but it is sort of similar in that it's like an action fantasy, I think, kind of book, and I believe this is a standalone. Don't know a ton about it, but Rick is one of my favorite authors, so I of course want to get to this. I have not heard many people talk about it though, so I'm a little worried like maybe it's not as good as his series, but hopefully hopefully it's pretty decent. Next up, we have Flashfire by TJ Klune. This is the second book in the Extraordinaries series. It follows this character named Nick back in the first book, and he was obsessed with the superheroes in his town. He really wanted to be one, and he was sort of in love with one of them and would like write fan fiction about it. Can't obviously say what ends up happening in the first one, but this is going to be the follow-up to that first book, and I think there's going to be one more in the trilogy. But basically it's kind of just like a fun superhero story where you're not actually following the superhero themselves, you're following like their love interests. There were definitely some cliffhangers at the end of the first one, definitely some things I would like to see continued, especially the romance that Nick has with one of the other characters. So I'm really excited to continue this. The first book was one of my favorite books that I read last year, so I'm really excited to see the humor in this, the romance, the fun, like action-packed superhero stuff, and it also has some rep for ADHD if that's something you're interested in reading about as well. Then I would also like to sneak in Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is a contemporary or sort of thrillerish story that I believe is based on the R. Kelly sort of incidents where we're following this young girl who is wanting to be a musician, and she gets taken advantage of, I think, her producer. So it sounds like a pretty hard-hitting, impactful story, which I think I am due for. I've been reading a bunch of like lighthearted romances lately with some fantasy, so this is one that I physically have on my shelf as well, so I definitely would like to read this, and then if I like it, continue reading Tiffany D. Jackson's other books because I hear a lot about them. Then for the very last book on my TBR, it's going to be whatever my book club book is with my friends, but we have not had our meeting yet to discuss what our March book will be, but I do know what I'm going to suggest, and I hope that they will agree to read this, so I'm just going to mention it. I'm hoping to read Finlay Donovan is Killing It. That is by Elle, Cosimano, and it is a cozy mystery book that I've just been hearing so much about, especially from some of my favorite booktubers like Gabby Reads. I think it was one of her favorite books last year. This is about a woman who I think writes thriller mystery type of books, and she is talking to someone on the phone in public about her book, like about something regarding killing, because that's the plot of her book, and someone overhears and thinks that she's actually a real life killer and like assassin. So the person hires her to kill someone for them and be like a hitman, and she accepts it because I think she's desperate for money, and so she gets into this crazy situation where she is supposed to kill someone, but she is not actually a trained hitman. So it's sort of this crazy situation that honestly reminds me of Dial 8 for Aunties, which is the only other like cozy mystery type of book I've read. So I'm really excited to read this. I feel like it's gonna be really good, and that perfect mixture of like the dark stuff with the really funny stuff. And I know the second book also just came out or is coming out soon, so it would be perfect to read that now so I can read the sequel soon. And I think that's all for my March TBR. Definitely let me know if you have read any of these books and if you can guess what my secret TBR video is going to be. And of course, subscribe so you can see what I thought of all these books at the end of the month. Add me on social media in the meantime, links in the description, and I will see you guys in my next video very soon. Bye!